Hey guys, so I recently started a new Discord server, and it's been a really great way to connect with other cool game developers as we all work on our own indie game projects. Making games can be a difficult task, especially when you're doing everything by yourself, so having a community of people who are all going through the same thing can be really helpful. The other day I asked the server what their burning game dev questions were, so today we're going to try to answer some of them. If you want to join the Discord and meet a bunch of other cool indie devs, and also participate in videos like these, the link's in the description. To kick things off, Pi asked if someone is completely new to programming and wants to get into game development, where should they start? In my opinion, there's not really a one-size-fits-all answer to this question. Everybody's journey is different. For me, I've always been obsessed with video games my entire life, so making games was kind of a no-brainer. Even though there wasn't a clear path to that goal, I still found ways to experiment. I remember in middle school, I tried making a game on RPG Maker, which was a great way of learning the fundamentals. After that, I tried out Dreams, which is a super streamlined game engine on PS4, and then eventually I took the dive into messing around with Unity. It wasn't exactly the most efficient way I could have learned to make games, but I think it was at least the gradual transition I needed to get started. How would I recommend others to start making games? Honestly, just start making them. I think a lot of people waste so much time on planning the most efficient way to do something, when they could already be doing that thing. Especially if you're an adult and you feel like you're too late to learning a new skill, you'll be even more late if you don't start now, so just do it. Download a game engine and try to figure out how it works. Watch tutorials or sign up for an online course. Instead of sitting there wondering the best way to learn something, find out if you actually want to learn it in the first place. Learning a new skill takes a lot of time. I've been making games for a couple years now, and I still feel like I barely know anything, but I'd know even less if I never started to begin with. So just get started. You got this. Next up, JWall wrote, I struggle with completing things because I always want to refine and improve it. I really want to make things to the highest quality I can manage. What tips can you find for finding the right balance for myself? This is a great question, and it's something that I think every creative person has experienced. Deciding whether or not something is good enough to be considered done feels impossible because it's just so subjective. A good way to describe this is that the first piece of art you make for your game will always be the worst. Making a game takes a very long time, and chances are your skills have improved a lot from the time you started to the time you finish. Because of that, all the stuff you made at the very beginning doesn't match the quality of the stuff you're making now. This can lead to a loop where you go back to update your early work, but by the time that's done, it's now better than your new stuff. It's a vicious cycle of trying to constantly reach the best quality you possibly can, when at the same time, the quality of your work is always going to be improving. This is something I've struggled with a lot in the past, and I'm sure it's something I'll struggle with in the future too. If I had any advice, the best way to break this cycle and actually complete projects is to stop being a perfectionist. I know, easier said than done, but it's really what separates the games that actually get finished and the games that don't. How can you stop being a perfectionist? Well, what I do is set a deadline and schedule for myself. I say, here are the things I'm going to get done this week, and when the week's over, that's it, move on. To give you an example, my goal for yesterday was to come up with a name and logo for my game. I went through a bunch of different options, and even though I couldn't find the perfect name I was hoping for, I settled on something that I liked enough and moved on. I could sit there and dedicate the next week to figuring out the perfect name and logo design, but I'd never get anything done. There's no such thing as a perfect name, it's all subjective. So my advice is to make deadlines for yourself and stick to them. Even if you aren't 100% satisfied with the outcome, at least you can move on to other things and actually work towards completing your game. Exel asked, are you afraid of success or failure? Each comes with its own problems. I completely agree, but to be honest, I think it really depends on what your definition of success is. People have different standards for what they think is successful. I assume most people define a successful indie game as one that reviews really well and sells tons of copies. That makes a lot of sense to me. Who wouldn't want to be so good at their passion that they can live off of it? To be completely honest though, I don't think I've ever been attached to that idea of success or failure. I mean, sure, I see those things as a major benefit of making games. I'm not gonna lie to you and say that money has no weight in what I do, but it isn't the reason why I'm doing it. Listen guys, I'm literally obsessed with making games. I don't do it because I have a small chance at getting rich one day. I do it because I want to be good at it. I really like the fact that I'm working towards something that that nobody else is telling me to do. It's all just willpower, and that's why I love it. So in my mind, every day that I decide to sit down and work on my game is my version of success. All right, one more question. Boop asked, where do you go for inspiration? How do you write dialogue that fits your characters? More of a writing question, but I feel like I'd spend hours pondering each word a character says, wondering if it fits them. Okay, so I gotta be clear that I have yet to write any of the actual dialogue for my game. I have a lot of ideas and personalities for the characters, but I haven't actually gotten into the scripting yet. That being said, I can tell you what my plan will be when we get there. So the first part of your question, where do you find inspiration for your characters? Even if you have an idea for a character, it probably comes from somewhere. Maybe it's a friend or family member. Maybe it's a different character from a show or movie. I'm thinking that probably the best way to write dialogue for the character is to pay close attention to how your character's inspiration talks. Let me explain. So if it's based on your friend, maybe write down the things they say to you and the unique quirks in their speech patterns. I mean, you should probably tell them that you're writing down everything they say because it's kind of creepy, but if they're your friends, they'll probably get it. After that, you can start using it in your dialogue. Test it in different scenarios. Bada bing, bada boom. Sorry there isn't much else I can say about it now, but I will talk more about my process when I start actually writing the dialogue for my game. Anyways, thanks guys for your questions. Remember, if you want to join our Discord server and be a part of the next video like this, the link's in the description. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Peace.